Hey everyone, welcome to Community Roots, a place where we gather in community to talk about mental health so we can travel the journey of life together. I'm Samuel Richards.
I'm Julie Richards.
I'm Sarah Wakefield.
And I'm excited. You know, it's been a while since we've done it, but trail mix. We're going to do a trail mix episode today. If this is your first trail mix that you're listening to, you're going to be in for a treat because this is a very much like brainstorming session, sort of questions. You know, often we have segments with trail mix that's a question just for you to consider or sit with or journal that helps you grow. Throughout this, you'll hear me and Sarah kind of experiencing it as we all do. But so, yeah, Mom and Sarah and I were talking about this most recent Unpack That, the Heart of Trauma. And we were talking a little bit about focusing more on the right brain to right brain connection and just making a whole episode about it. So I'm excited for this. So, Mom, can you remind us a little bit, right brain to right brain versus left brain?
Absolutely. So the right brain experience and being in a right brain to right brain, what we mean by that is this relational space in between. So I'm bringing my heart, my presence, my emotion, my felt sense, my memories, my everything that is exploring and ready for creativity, ready for inspiration, all the different layers and dynamics. We think of that as all being part of our right brain. So right brain to right brain connection is I'm here to bring all of me and I'm listening for all of you. And we get to explore wherever that organically takes us in the moment. So here trail mix is to like live out loud. Here we are, like we're showing up and we're just having conversations that are life-giving and inspiring and challenging. They're not just task focused on fixing something. It's more in an experiential knowing, understanding, relating, finding meaning in things.
I'll say that for me, yeah, left brain is very much like there's a task, let's get it done. We've talked about this before. Like it feels a little heady, like where you're just in your own head or you just feel like you're floating above yourself, kind of just like, let's get this done. And so I was trying to channel my right brain. And for me, getting back in my body starts with my feet and like grounding myself. And so I don't know if you saw, I went back and I got my slippers so that I could be just a little more grounded, you know, because I feel like, I don't know, I've really enjoyed even these, we've talked about this, the last couple of episodes have been very right brained. Like when you talk
Yes.
from Rodham, we talk, that's probably the first time we said the phrase right brain to right brain.
Yep.
And then this expressive arts deep breath that came out recently. So I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, when you talk about trauma and experiencing trauma, just really fast, I'm curious, what side of your brain does trauma normally like hold itself, or like where do you experience trauma in your brain? Do you feel it? Do you experience a traumatic experience? Oh my gosh, guys, I'm so eloquent. On your right brain, or do you experience it on your left brain?
It is a right brain kind of implicit, unconscious, all of those meaning making parts, emotional parts of our brain are more right brained. So if we stay now, we're not getting rid of our left brain. That is kind of a foundation that holds us up and it gives us knowledge and support and sometimes steadies us. In fact, as a society, we are left centric. Like, get to the solution, solve it, get the problem figured out, and do it. Kind of being a doer more than someone who's able to just be in the space. We're more about productivity, accomplishments. All of those things in and of themselves are not bad. They're helpful, they're useful. what we're looking at in exploring the right brain a little bit more is to say, let's bring balance into using both and not only lean on the left brain, learning, producing, doing, but explore, okay, but what does it mean to be fully alive, to be a human, to have experiences, to have things that are potentially unresolved being stored in our right brain and body, and our body's trying to communicate with us. So, are we pausing occasionally to listen and to check in with that, to notice it instead of just pressing forward to accomplish and do more?
So basically, taking time to eat the trail mix in the middle of your hike instead of pushing to the very top.
Nice.
y-
There
Just
it goes. Full
having a moment
circle.
to reflect. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
There's the eloquence.
like we might notice that there's a little brook that has that sound of rushing water, and we're seeing the height of the trees when we look up into the sky and the forest, and we're looking at those trees and we're pausing to notice that. We're checking in on what color is the sky, and we're hearing the birds. So all of those are like sensory inputs. Those are all bringing to us images and life-giving beauty around us. But did we pause to notice it and take it in, or did we just hurry our way through the whole day and we're not checking in with our body at all? I have to notice, for everyone who doesn't have the video, Sarah's doing her bilaterals, whether she realizes it or not. She's swaying slowly back and forth, which is this left-right movement that kind of regulates the nervous system. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a trail mix for us.
Okay.
So, what are some ways that you engaged your right brain this week? And what are some ways that you went to go engage your right brain, but just kind of went a little left brain with it?
Ooh.
I can totally start because I thought of the question, but
You had time to reflect already,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you can
I
answer your
came
own
prepared.
question.
Let me just get my notes here.
There you go. We
Yep,
want to hear it.
Oh, well, it's something I mentioned a little bit before the podcast, but so expressive arts, there's a couple ways that I've been continuously trying to engage the right side of my brain recently. And one of those is definitely we went to the book loft the other day, and
Aw.
I got an adult coloring book that has
Mm.
like kaleidoscopes of nature, and so there's a bunch of things you can color in, and so that's been good. Like because it's been so rainy recently, we've been able to watch movies together at home, and it's fun to be doing something else or just like coloring and kind of, I don't know, deciding what color the roses will be, or like I had colored some rabbits in, and I made one like bright red just for fun. But
I'm curious, you're using colored
Mm-hmm.
pencils, crayons.
yeah,
Oh my
colored
goodness, that's
pencils.
beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't draw this as the cover.
Right, but it's beautiful colors in that. Like
But
just
yeah,
pausing to
yeah.
notice things like that.
Yeah, there's like
Wow.
just a lot you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been really refreshing, because sometimes I just feel like I'm just moving from one thing to the other. And we had been watching a lot of Star Wars recently. And so it's also like really intense, lots of like people dying and explosions. And so like at the end, I was like, I don't know if I'm more rested right now or if I'm just exhausted. And
Yeah.
so this has been a good way to kind of engage
Mhm.
that right side of the brain recently.
And I'm curious, Samuel, for you, what comes to mind for me is like seeing the colors in puzzle pieces and stuff. When I sit down with a puzzle, when you're doing that adult coloring book, are you thinking about stressors, or are you in the moment? Are you able to be present to
No,
see the
I'm in the
color?
present. That's
Yeah.
what I try and do. You know,
Uh-huh.
like, do I want this shade of purple or that shade of green?
Mhm.
You know, whatever it may be, because it's a pretty, versatile book that you can kind of do
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
As
But
So
someone
it's
who's
kind of like, I was just going to say, it's taking you out of like time in a way. It's like a timeless
Mhm.
space because you're
Oh, now we're getting
creating.
into dissociation.
Well, not necessarily, but just that like you're creating room for I'm just going to be in this little cove I've created for myself in this
Mm-hmm.
moment. I'm just going to be in this creative space. I mean, it would be dissociation in a healthy way because you're
Sure. Right.
de-stressing and you're refueling and you're feeling refreshed by that. That's life-giving to you. So it's a very healthy form of I'm just going to step back and not feel all my stress. I'm just going to relax and see color and create something.
I was going to ask if, as someone who has several of those coloring books around the house, I get frustrated because
Mm.
there's so much detail, and I have to like this little millimeter by millimeter section is going to be blue, and then this little millimeter section and then it sends my slight OCD self into overdrive because I'm like, well, I don't know what color is it supposed to be. What's going to look good? Nothing's going to look good. I'm going to mess it up. It really stresses me out.
Yeah, and
So
can
how
you
do you
have
overcome
with
that?
all those little lines, it's like can you pick the same color twice or do you have to pick a new color each time because they're so small that it's like that would be a lot of colors? Yeah.
Yeah.
You might need a blank piece of paper. You might just enjoy going freestyle and being like, "Goodness, I don't need all these lines."
Yeah. Samuel, do you ever draw two colors next to each other?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say what I kind of viewed. I had a little bit of that anxiety because they are really intense, and so I was just like, "This is for me, not for anyone else." So if I do it, like I colored in the bluebells wrong, I drew like blue stems instead of like green stems. I'm like, you know what? This isn't even for anyone else. This is for me, so that's the way they look, you know.
And
And
they might look
so
great with blue stems. Like
that's true. How
it's
beautiful would
like
that be?
Yeah.
how artistic is that?
I'm
And
inspired now
so,
to go get mine and then just like color one page just the same color.
I'm gonna
yeah.
have
Like,
an entire
it's mine. I can
page.
do
Yeah.
whatever I want.
You know what I did a lot of is color in the big stuff and then color in the details to just whatever flow of pattern I wanted.
Hmm.
But yeah. So not yet, but maybe that's a good time to kind of like, or a safe space to confront the OCD or confront the anxiety where you're just like, I'm just coloring, you know, like it's an easy battle. Just be like, you know what? I'm going to color outside the lines over here. Or yeah, kind of what you said. I'm just going to color all one color. Maybe you do a couple different shades of all blue and then you've got yourself like a work in color. Like you'll be in the
Wow.
Columbus Art Museum someday.
You know what's super fun too? I do process not perfection with one of my sessions during the week that we mix colored pencil with crayon with
Huh.
marker and to see how they all have different shades and textures
Huh.
and it's actually quite I think it's spectacular watching how they go back and forth and flow together because it's
Wow.
like it's almost like a mosaic in a way because they all
Mhm.
offer a different shine or shade or nuance
Yeah.
that it's just like oh my goodness this just took it to a new level like I actually love it.
Yeah,
I
I
can see
felt
it's
my
kind of
anxiety
I know
spike a
I was
little.
gonna say I could see the tension in you of like oh no that's horrible but
No, but it sounds interesting.
it's something to experiment with and that's the fun part of expressive arts is that it really is about the process and it is just let's see where this takes us it's on an adventure and that might be beautiful and wonderful and it's not catastrophic if it's not you know it's not
Right.
like
Like
it
worst case scenario, you don't like that piece of art you made.
exactly you can turn the page and have a new piece or start again or something else so yeah.
What somebody had told me once is whenever you push your comfort zone in a safe way just a little bit, you know, it's like having a pencil or some sort of medium on a piece of paper where like you're pushing outside of what's been done before. You're going into the unknown that is just the white page. And doing that in a healthy way, suddenly like you do that enough, you do it in the right ways, even if you mess up, you know, as Bob Ross says, happy little accidents. That's how you're able to create the whole piece of art instead of just sticking to your one dot that you're used to. So
Mhm.
like coloring with markers, crayons, and colored pencils, and maybe even paint, who knows. But the anxiety
Ooh.
spike, is just like, well, it's just a nice, it's just outside that range. It's something that you can just kind of go, yeah, I know what that's like.
Well,
I
let's
experience that.
let's do this check-in, if you're willing, Samuel, with what you just noticed. When I said those various mediums of pencil, marker, crayon, and you went, "Oh, I just got anxious." How did you know that? What happened in your body?
Hmm.
What sensations did you notice? What image, what emotion?
Huh. I felt like it's kind of like turning up white noise or something, or it felt kind of like almost like a quick rush, like almost like somebody hit the gas real quick and you just hit the back of the
It kind
seat.
of startled you in a way or something,
Yeah,
like,
and I mean not in a
"Whoa."
real way, but just I was
Yeah.
not expecting you to say the phrase that you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
That you're gonna say, like crayons from different boxes.
Yeah. Because I would follow the rules of keeping it just crayons or
And I
keeping
can
it just
see,
pencils.
yeah, I can see crayon and colored pencil. I can't see the marker, how the marker fits into it, but I'm willing to dive in.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess the thing that I think is cool, and this has been helpful for me in becoming more embodied, which was also a recent episode we had on embodiment. Um, the idea that sometimes it can be hard for some of us to notice body sensations or notice reactions that we're having because we're just kind of floating through life, or just either we have a lot going on or we just don't check in enough with our bodies. So if I have a sudden reaction to something, even if it's completely like harmless, I'm not becoming
Sure.
reactive with it, but I just notice, oh, that kind of landed for me a certain way.
Yeah.
That helps me pay attention to me a little bit, just in the sense of like, oh, that caught my attention.
Yeah.
I can
What was that
see.
like?
Yeah, I can just check in with myself and say, what was that about? Like, I noticed in a certain conversation, or when I was watching Star Wars, or all of this, that you were picking up on, like, wow, this is really intense. I need somewhere to kind of dial it down a little bit, and having some like time to recharge and not just feel vamped up. So when we're able to check in with our bodies with how much energy is flowing through us, we're either in that like sympathetic uh accelerator is going, like anger,
Hmm.
anxiety, all the intensity, or we're really flat and kind of dorsal vagal, parasympathetic, like shut down, or are we widening that window to bring in some moments of connection? So those are
Hmm.
all ways that we can do this right brain check-in with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
In the Heart of Trauma, we talked about that being just a 2-minute, which is so possible for all of us if we can retrain ourselves to actually pause, to be like, oh, what is coming up for me? What are the things that I could be noticing?
If you so one of the things that comes to mind with yoga, and we've talked about this a lot, this is not my reflection, but there's a lot of opportunity in yoga to stop and
Hmm.
notice. And that's one thing that we're constantly prompted to do, is notice what comes up. And usually a lot of times it can be like after you do a difficult sequence of poses and your heart rate's going, notice your heart rate, notice your breathing. How is your breathing? Where is it? Without judgment, without saying you need to breathe in more deeply, or get into your belly, or you did the pose wrong, or notice, do you feel unbalanced? Do you where is your body? And so that's one of the things I really love about yoga, is that opportunity every so often to stop and reflect.
And even with that left side of the body versus right side of the body, we talked a little bit about that too. Like, it might feel differently when you repeat the same exercise or pose or movement, sequence of motion, that kind of thing. When you repeat it to the other side, might feel completely different.
Hmm.
So I like the option to notice what's different on this side. And also, one of the things I loved in the Heart of Trauma was where Bonnie would say something like like, let's just see if anything is
Hmm.
different. Like, maybe it's not, and it's okay if it's not. So it doesn't feel like I have to find something. I have to figure out what the answer is, which is very left-brained, like get the answer right, fill in the blank, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's more like, oh, I'm just present with what is. I'm just here for whatever's coming up. I'm just here to bring my presence, my listening. I'm just here for it.
Yeah, Sarah, based on just to connect this a little bit too, like what you were saying, I think that my brain just focuses on left brain when I'm trying to do yoga. And maybe if I channeled the right brain a little bit, because with yoga, sometimes I'm like, we're doing the sequence and I'm just like, okay, we've done like 3 of these. When are we going to go to the, and I can already see how it's like analytical and just trying to like solve the problem or check mark the box, like, did yoga today? Check, you know? And so I can see how, and even working out in general, if you can feel your body a little bit more or kind of just go, what does this feel like? Or, man, I'm feeling strong, or I'm feeling steady today, or whatever it may be. Seems more right brain and more enjoyable even in those processes instead of being like, oh, I still have 25 minutes of this. You know?
Yeah, just being in the experience itself, being more present, being there.
Exactly.
I have started working with a trainer, which first time in my life, took me all these years to walk inside a gym, but it is really cool to notice, even from sequence to sequence, from one activity to another, there's variation in how it feels the first time through it, the second time through it, the third time through it. And sometimes I'm sure I can have momentum for it, and other times I'm sure I can't. And I'm just like, but at the end, I've done it. Like, I got through it, and there's a sense of noticing that. Like, I just love becoming more aware and taking it into those micro moments, whether we're at the gym or we're, walking outside for a moment, or we're putting our feet up at the end of the day, or we're feeling a soft blanket. Like, just the noticing is very life-giving. It is a way of coming back to home base and being here now. That's really, I think, I really think it's beautiful, to be honest.
So my reflection for when was the last time I, or when have I right brained or that stuff, because I'm back to being eloquent again. Oh,
That means just give it a couple seconds and you'll just click and say something.
yes, I know. Everybody be prepared. I'm going to lay it down real soon. So the first thing I thought of is interaction with animals. And specifically, and I can find lots of examples with my cat and my dog, but the primary thing I thought of are my interactions with my horse. And I know the equestrian community is a small percentage of the entire population, so this may not relate to a lot of people, but bear with me. So when you think about horseback riding, a lot of people think about, well, you just sit on the horse and the horse follows the other horse in front of it, and you do your ride or whatever, and you're done. It's a half hour or whatever. Well, when you really dig into being an equestrian or a horse person, and you're in a training program, or you're committed to diving deeper into what it means to connect with this animal, because you are riding this animal is allowing you in a predatorial position on its back. So I'm not a mountain lion, but a mountain lion would be primarily where I am trying to kill this animal. All right. So we've evolved, and now we're riding. And as an equestrian, someone who's committed to taking lessons and furthering my understanding of what it means to connect with the horse, the horse is a mirror of you as a person. And so whatever you bring into the barn or into the stall, or when you go out to the pasture to pick up your horse, or not pick up, but get your horse, whatever you are carrying with you that day, they will pick up on it and reflect it back to you. And a lot of people, at the very onset of experiencing an interaction with the horse, will be like, oh, that horse is upset, or the horse is mad at you, or the horse doesn't want to be caught, or, we will anthropomorphize these animals. But what they're really doing is reflecting back to you your own state. So if I'm in an agitated state and I'm exasperated and I'm like just flinging myself out there to engage with my horse, but not really engage. I'm just going to be there. My horse is going to be dancing in place. It's going to be moving around. It's going to be reflecting a state of agitation. And so one of the things we have to do when you step into a space with a horse is to check in with your body and to say, okay, where am I? What am I bringing? Because whatever I bring, it's going to stay here. And this 1,200-pound animal is going to tell me exactly what I'm feeling. And that can go many different ways. And it's a continuous check-in. So when you're grooming your horse, your horse is picking up on, am I pushing the brush too hard into their skin? Because I'm agitated. And so now I'm brushing my horse a little more harshly than I normally would. And it's going to say, switch its tail and be like, I don't like that. And then when tacking up your animal, excuse me, when you're tacking them up, if you're throwing the saddle on them, they're going to become increasingly agitated to say, like, what is going on here? Because I think animals are really right-brained, so they're feeling it in their body constantly. And so you get in the saddle, and then now you're sitting on this 1,200-pound animal. You got your legs on either side. You've got your contact in the reins, so you're holding the reins with your hands, and you have your seat. And all of this can convey every emotion that you're feeling. So if I'm tense on my left side, then my horse is going to be stiffer on the left side. Or it's going to be stiffer, or it's going to be more bendy on the right side. And so we're not going to go in a straight line. And if I'm tense on my right side, then the exact opposite is going to happen on the left. Or if I'm tense with my hands, my horse is going to back up, and my horse is going to get really tight. And if I'm tense with my seat, my horse is going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to try to get out from underneath that tense seat. And so you're spending your entire time on this animal going, how can I be in the most balanced, neutral, supple state? And it's a really interesting process, because now you're training yourself to reflect, and you're having all these immediate reactions to what your body is doing, what your brain is doing. But also this 1,200-pound animal is saying, hey, guess what? Like, I'm going to respond in all these different ways to you. And so you're taking an input from something else. And I can even tell you right now, as I tell this story, I'm getting a lot of emotions. Like, I'm starting to shake a little bit. I'm getting a little sweaty. And I was just in this emotional intelligence training session the other day, and we were talking about, like, what's our emotional responses to things. And I'm like, oh, I'm a sweater. Like, you get me talking, or if I'm feeling an emotion, I just start like perspiring. I would glisten, as my Aunt Fran used to say, or I talk really fast like I'm doing right now, because I'm trying not to take up space. And I want this to be over with, and I want to be done. So all of this, like even this experience itself, like this is my reflection, because here I am, like my heart rate's pounding. I'm getting really sweaty again.
You're wearing yourself out. I'm curious, Sarah, what's the emotion that comes up for you as you're reflecting on the horse mirroring you and the different movements of your own body with the horse?
It is equal parts excitement and shame. So I feel very excited to be talking about this and sharing this experience that's very dear to my heart, because it makes up a huge component of who I am. But I'm also a little ashamed, because I'm talking about something that not a lot of people can relate to. And I feel like I shouldn't be taking up that space, and I should have a different, better, more broadly experienced example to give. So
see, I was actually going to take that and run with it, where we have feed your inner plant, and maybe check in with your horse is another sticker we could have, like or check in before you ride. I think that there's a story or a lesson to take from that, even if, I mean, I have ridden a horse before and I don't remember anything really happening, but I think I'm fairly chill, so I'm not sure if anything would have happened. And so it's just interesting. Like, I can still identify with it and see how, like, maybe there's even a perspective to expand. Like, whenever you go interact with other humans or even your dog or your cat, other people can pick up on those vibes. Like when you enter into a room and you can feel the mood change, even though there's
Absolutely.
nothing really being said. It's still like other folks are mirroring your reaction, you're mirroring them. I
Your
think it's an
social
interesting
presentation.
example. Yeah. If you come in all disfigured and, rushed, then folks might reflect that going into it.
Yeah, your nervous systems will speak to each other. Sarah, as you shared the emotion of shame, I felt a twinge go through my shoulders and my back because I felt emotion well up in me that I thought, what is the shame about? And I was thinking, it's interesting because shame can also be seen as a desire to be loved, to be wanted, to be welcomed. And I was thinking, like, Sarah, there's room here for you. There's space for you. And so, like, talk about right brain to right brain connection. I was experiencing it in the present as you were organically going through it. I was organically going with you. And I was so excited that you brought up horses today because I don't know if you've seen it recently, but there's like a reel on the person doing snow angels. And then have you seen the one where the horse lays down and starts they're like, this horse knows how to do snow angels too. And I thought of you and I was like, oh, Sarah. So there's connection in all of that.
Fun fact, I don't think that horse is actually doing snow angels. Horses love to roll in the snow. And so we just have, like, I don't want to burst a whole bunch of bubbles, but I will. My horse will go do that too. If I go lay down, I mean, it's really cool that the horse laid down next to the human.
Yeah.
That horse has a strong sense of trust. That person has created this bond with them.
Yeah.
That puts the horse in a very vulnerable situation. And the human too. I mean, this human's laying down next to this 1,200-pound animal.
Sure.
So that's a very vulnerable spot for the human to be in too. It's a very cute reel.
Yeah. I was thinking of you. So.
Oh, thank you. I haven't done that. My horse would probably be like, no.
We've got a special relationship worked out, and that's not part of it.
That's right. I respect her. She respects me.
Thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed being a part of our very real right brain to right brain conversation.
Yeah.
It was fun to get vulnerable there for a second on a couple of different levels. So,
it's also an opportunity real quick that if you've been listening and following along with us and you haven't had time to go back to some of those recent episodes that we've put out, we're inviting you back in to say, check out about EMDR, about dissociation, embodiment. There's lots of small topics on the deep breath weeks, and the Instagram posts kind of summarize. I'm really working hard to get the content to be meaningful. And so it's not just it's not an ad. It's not trying to sell you something. It's just there as another way to see creative expression of the various things that we're exploring together. So we're inviting you in that way too. So I hope it's all something that encourages you and helps you feel less alone in the world, and that you might share with friends, family, or coworkers to help spread the word.
Yeah, it's especially good for somebody who might not listen to a whole podcast episode, but with like the highlights.
It is. It's the highlight reel.
If you have somebody in your life and you see an episode that's relevant, send them the Instagram link, and that's at communityroots.pod. And so you can check that out. You can also go to our link tree where you'll see all of our links. That's linktr.ee/communityroots. And I will go into just a little bit how much like it means whenever you reach out to us. So however you want to do that, if it's through iTunes or Spotify, or you'd like to message us on Instagram or email us at communityroots.pod@gmail.com, we appreciate it. But before we go, I'll be remiss if I don't shout out some folks. Thanks to Sarah and Julie for joining me today. Thanks to Steve Dodge for the theme song, Alexander Wells for the logo. Let's go have a right-brained week. The weather's popping up. Let's, engage that side, try and get a good walk in. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us this week. We'll talk to you guys soon.